What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to episode 93 of the Fortnite Mythbusters. In today's episode, we have so many awesome myths that you guys suggested on the last episode. So, just like always, if you do have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes of the Fortnite Mythbusters, make sure to go down in the comments and drop a comment of that myth for a pretty good chance to be featured. As well, if you do enjoy today's video at any moment, feel free to consider leaving a like. Let's see if we could smash 10,000 likes on today's episode. That would be insane. As well, if you do enjoy the content that you do see, feel free to consider subscribing and turning on those post notifications to never miss another Fortnite Mythbusters episode. Anyways, with the entire intro and everything to the side, let's get right on into episode 93 of the Fortnite Mythbusters. Jumping straight into the first myth. The first myth is, if you throw a decoy into Slurpy Swamp's water, will the decoy gain shield? I thought this was actually a very good myth, because whenever you throw down a regular decoy in game, they're basically a replication of your character. The only thing with regular decoys though is that they only have 100 HP, so they are very easy to kill, and you can't physically give them a shield potion for them to take, so there's really no way for them to gain any shield except maybe Slurpy Swamp's water. When I tried this myth out in game, I had my friend throw down a decoy grenade into the middle of Slurpy Swamp's water, where it was slowly gaining shield, or at least my player was at the time. Surprisingly though, when I did shoot the decoy grenade after it was in the water for a couple seconds, it made the crack as well as a blue number popped up, which means that the character or the decoy, it had some sort of shield within its health bar. I thought this was actually very interesting. So at Slurpy Swamp, if you're ever fighting someone who throws down a bunch of decoys, just because you hit someone with shield does not mean it will be the real player. Jumping straight into the next myth. The next myth is, can you carry bosses or even henchmen out of their base barriers? So in the last episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, I tried to bring a boss or kind of lure it out of its base all the way to another base, so basically the Shark Cove to the agency, and we found out that the bosses, they have these barriers that they're really not allowed to go past. What I didn't try in that Mythbusters episode was actually picking up the boss or even a henchman and carrying it away from its zone, which you surprisingly are actually able to do. Just the sucky thing with this is that you have to build a pathway all the way across the water, because every single location except one location is surrounded by water. So I don't know the place with the holes in the ground. That's like the only location that doesn't really have water surrounding it. But even if you did want to carry a boss or even a henchman from the agency all the way to the Shark Cove or to another location, they will die along the way because their HP will drain quick enough and there's no way to heal them. Going into the next myth. The next myth is, does any keycard work at the agency vault, since it's basically the main headquarters? So I posted a Mythbusters video a couple days ago where I tried to take a keycard to one vault and go to another vault, basically the agency to the rig, and it wouldn't work. But I saw in the comments a lot of people were saying any keycard would work at the agency vault. Even though it wasn't directly asked as a myth, I decided why not try it out and feature it, because a lot of people were under the impression that any keycard would work at the vault in the agency. But from what I could see, when I tried to take the Shark Cove keycard all the way to the agency vault, it would say access denied. It would not work. What I thought was actually pretty interesting thing is, with this one though, is usually there's a dotted line that would take you back to the main vault, but when I was holding out the Shark Cove vault keycard, it was telling me to go into the sky for some reason. I really don't even know where it was trying to lead me. Definitely not to the Shark Cove. So unfortunately, no keycard except the agency keycard will work at the agency. If you have a keycard, it has to go to the vault that the keycard belongs to. So Shark Cove at the Shark Cove, the rig at the rig, the agency at the agency. You kind of get it from there. I mean, in the end though, it totally makes sense if it would have opened though. Jumping into the next myth. The next myth is, if you win a match without damaging a single player or an NPC, in the match stats will it show your accuracy as 0 or 100%? This is actually a very good myth, because this is something you wouldn't really have the chance to do in a regular game unless you have a custom matchmaking code and have a friend to test this myth out with. When I tried this myth out though, I basically went into a custom matchmaking game and I landed next to my friend. I didn't pickaxe him, didn't pickaxe a single thing, not even swinging it once, and he jumped off to his death, basically giving me the victory royale. I then checked my stats and it showed my accuracy as 0%. To be honest, I was actually pretty surprised when it said 0%. I was kind of expecting it to say like NA or maybe even just like blank, but 0% meaning I didn't hit anything. I don't really see why I would say that. Going into the next myth is what happens if you disguise yourself as a shadow henchman and try to open a scanner chest at a ghost base. This is actually a pretty good myth, and a whole ton of you guys were requesting this myth after a similar one I tested on the last episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, which I highly suggest you go watch when you do get a chance. Anyways, I landed at the agency and disguised myself as a shadow and went over to the Shark Cove and tried to scan myself at this chest where it then said henchman only. I thought that was pretty strange because I tested it without any disguise on as well, and it said henchman only, which was pretty strange. I mean, as a shadow henchman, you're basically a henchman, right? Anyways, just to show you guys that this works, I went over to the telephone booth right outside of the Shark Cove and put on the disguise, then scanned myself, and the chest opened. It gave me all of the loot. It said access granted. So I guess if you are a shadow henchman or ghost henchman and go to the opposing base and try to open up their chest, it unfortunately will not work. Overall though, a pretty good myth and something actually pretty interesting. Going into the next myth is what happens when you throw a henchman into the air current at the grotto. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm gonna be honest, I never ever land at this base, so this was the first time I've ever killed this boss. I didn't even know what it looked like before, but basically whenever I picked up the grotto or whatever this boss's name is, and even a henchman, and threw them into the air vent, it would make the glider noise while they're floating up, and they would kind of hover, maybe I'd say like, I don't know, like 10 walls high above the surface. I think it's actually interesting that it does make the glider noise from the person even though they're not actually holding a glider. And something good to know is when you do kill them and their loot falls all the way down to the bottom of the air current, it's literally the exact situation as a volcano from back in season 9 and season 10. You are unable to pick up that loot. So if you do kill a henchman or anything over this, you will not be able to get their loot. Jumping straight into the next myth is what happens when you throw a decoy onto a launch pad. Will the decoy launch into the sky, or what exactly happens? Now, don't get this mixed up with the myth that you probably came for the title, because that is literally an actual henchman slash boss that we do throw on to the launch pad. So this is a decoy a lot of people requested, and what's interesting about it is literally the decoy will have the exact same glider that you have selected. I threw a decoy grenade onto the launch pad itself, and the player had the exact same skin of mine, obviously, and the exact same glider, and the exact same situation was with my friend. What's interesting to note though is that the decoy will not even notice you while they're gliding or even kind of attack you until they do fully land on the ground. Jumping into the next myth is what happens when a henchman lands on top of a launch pad. Now this myth was a lot more difficult to do because the bots, you could throw them and they will spawn wherever you want. So actually getting a henchman to jump on a launch pad was pretty difficult. So the way I did it was get a henchman in my box to be somewhat in the center, place down the launch pad, which automatically will send them flying into the sky. And surprisingly, they basically have an invisible glider, but they still do glide down. They still make the exact same noise as a glider, but there's no animation going. There's no glider present at all. The henchmen, they're literally holding what looks to be a gun, but the gun is invisible, and they will try and track onto you as well. In the air, after launching on top of the launch pad, the henchmen, they will move slightly to the side, which will eventually get them off of the launch pad, which I guess is a good thing. I took it to another step and picked up the exact same henchman while he was knocked down on the ground and set him on top of the launch pad, which in that case, it was not allowing him to launch up into the air. It's the exact same as if your player is knocked and you crawl on top of a launch pad. It will not launch you up into the air, which I thought was actually pretty interesting. It would be pretty cool though to see the henchman chase after you after jumping on a launch pad. Going into the last and final myth, this myth is it possible for a decoy to deal damage to you or even enemies? Originally, I was not going to test this myth until I was testing out the decoy on a launchpad myth, and after the decoy landed, he was shooting at me, targeting me, and I actually got a frame where he literally hit me in the head. I mean, it was square point blank in the head with a shotgun, and it did no damage to me whatsoever. So if you ever do see a decoy running at you with a shotgun or even a gun spraying at you, no need to worry, because they will never be able to deal any damage to you or your players. Anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on those post notifications to never miss another Mythbusters episode, and I will see you guys next time.